Hello and welcome to the World Advanced Therapies and Regenerative Medicine Congress Interview Zone. My name is Freya Leask, I'm the editor of RegMedNet and I'll be your host for today. I'm very pleased to be joined by Narayanan from Voisin Consulting. Narayanan, thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
So for those of us who might not be familiar with Voisin Consulting, can you tell us a little bit about the company?
Voisin Consulting is, as the name implies, it's a consultation company which helps companies developing medicinal products and devices and diagnostics, for example, into taking them through the path to success. So that's fundamentally what we do, using our experience and our expertise in-house to guide our clients.
Interesting. And how did you yourself come to work with Voisin?
Well, I used to work for the UK MHRA, the regulatory agency, and as part of that, I was a member of a few European committees, like the Committee for Advanced Therapies, for example, which is what is relevant for the Waterham Conference. And I had 12 years at MHRA in the biologicals unit, and since then I've gone into the consulting area, where I pretty much put my regulatory hat on and try and help the clients to achieve success in their development all through their life cycle.
So the field of advanced therapies has obviously changed massively in the last few years. How have the needs of your clients changed?
Well, I mean, as you know, as you say, it's relatively new comparatively, and this whole field, even now, I think quite a lot starts in the academic setting, which is different to a conventional medicinal product development, and which means that taking them through the path to success from academic to industry and to the regulatory and beyond is a bit of a different kind of challenge. So the usual principles that apply for, say, a chemical or even a small biological may not apply that directly. However, the important thing to remember is that in Europe they are regulated as a medicinal product, and therefore they still have to fulfill the requirements of medicinal products in that sense, even though the science is quite a bit different and more complex.
And can you share some of the most common sort of challenges or obstacles that you work with your clients to overcome?
Oh, well, where do I start? I mean, to start with, the manufacturing is a huge issue. When I started with the Committee for Advanced Therapies 10 years ago, the CMC, or the Chemistry Manufacturing Control issue was a big topic. 10 years down the line, it's still the case. It's still being talked about because at various stages when academic researcher starts within a small area, and then to go through to commercialization, they have to then make changes all the time, and then they have to improve it, and then expand the amount, and sometimes even go from one continent to another, for example. All of this creates a complexity which is not easy to address in a very simple way, and it has an impact on the whole product development. And so, if, for example, if you start at the scientific level with a small product manufacturer and a few patients, and then you want to take it further, then the translation of the data from that early research right through is not going to be that straightforward. And so it causes a lot of complexity, and that's still a major issue, it seems, even now.
Interesting. So you mentioned that you often work with academic scientists. It must be tempting for those groups to keep within themselves, as they must be used to. But how can developers and potential developers make best use of partners in the commercialization process?
Well, I think from what I understand, that's being encouraged now. There are more and more interaction between academics and developers, although I'm not an expert in that field. It's not my area. There's a lot more interaction, but it's a complex area because, from my understanding, investors are a little bit nervous about this, obviously, because the risk of failure is probably still at this stage unknown, maybe high. So because the more complex the product gets, the more likely that it can potentially fail. And the trick is to minimize the failure, to make sure that every product potentially achieves its capacity, because we don't want any failures.
No, of course not. Obviously, we hope the industry will continue to grow over the next few years with more and more approvals. How do you think the role of consultants, such as yourself, will evolve to meet that demand?
Oh, well, that's a good question. I think what many people don't understand is that consultants like us have a huge breadth of knowledge, because we deal with several different products, several different stages of development, and for various indications and various scientific background. If you look at gene therapy, it can be made in different ways. You can have cell therapies with different cells, and the application go from anything from cardiology, neurology, etc., etc. So there's a wide range, and that wide range of experience is a fundamental strength of companies like us. Whereas a company developing one product, they are very strong in the depth of the science. They know the product very well. They know the condition that they're treating very well. That is their expertise. And so the idea is to combine the breadth of our experience and knowledge with the depth of companies that's developing it, and their experience and their knowledge and their expertise in that specific field. So that is the whole idea of how the consultancy should work.
Fascinating. Well, Narayanan, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you, and thank you all for joining us. We'll be back with more interviews from the Interview Zone very shortly.